Welcome to another edition of All Things MSP Livestream. Tonight I have a great guest who I have gotten to know really well over the last couple of months, over the last probably really year. Somebody that I followed even before that, and just really got to know him better throughout the course of this year. And we're going to talk about community tonight. Obviously, you guys know that I'm big on community. That's why I do this. That's why I take time out of my day to do this type of stuff. And it's really important to me. So we wanted to come on and talk about how that's affected our lives, how you can get involved, and just some of the really great aspects of community in this industry. Now, because this is the pre-show, I do probably need to go check just to make sure that the live stream has fired off everywhere. Facebook looks good. Let's see. Yeah, YouTube looks good. And lastly, LinkedIn. LinkedIn says I'm live. So everything is, looking good so far. We do have one person watching. So if that one person who's watching could do me the favor of just putting in a comment wherever you're watching, just so that I know that the comments are working and that, of course, the audio and everything is coming across well, because that's important for a live stream. All right, just double checking a couple other things here. Looks like we are in the green on everything. But of course, you guys let me know if, things aren't working right. All right, let's see. Probably while we're waiting for, the top of the hour and everybody to show up here, just want to say that, I'm going to try and continue these live streams on a fairly regular basis. Now, life does get in the way. I don't always have Wednesday nights free, and this seems to be one of the better nights to do this. So just keep looking for the announcements. I put them on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and I think YouTube announces them, but I think I probably need to do a little bit better job of using the community feature of YouTube in order to promote these a little bit better. So I will do a better job at that. Also, I have to apologize to my guest because he got the invite for this about a half an hour ago. We planned it. We advertised it in advance, but I forgot to send him the link to have him connect. So, we'll make sure we get all these things set. All right. I'm not seeing any comments. So if you're here, Ed, thank you very much. Actually, that's what it is. I am working on a delay because obviously Restream has to restream all of these things out. By the way, if you guys ever have any questions about how I do this, what I'm using, the equipment, the software, the services, just let me know. The service that I'm using is Restream, and that allows me to restream it to all of the three platforms that I'm using. And I'm using a software called Ecamm. So Ecamm, it's available. It's only for the Mac. It's I think it's really nice. It allows me to do different scenes, different sound effects, and of course, bring in the guests, which are the important part. All right. Well, we are winding down here for the last minute. I do have a beverage this evening. So if any of you are interested, it is a Red Oak Amber Ale, a local North Carolina beer, by the way. I probably forgot to tell Juan that this is, drinking is allowed on this show. I don't think this will be the last one that he and I do together, however, so. All right. So I guess just really quick, I'm going to go ahead and add Ed's comment to, okay, comments are working. Good. Perfect. 5, 4, 3, 2. Let's get this thing started. All right, welcome back, everybody, to All Things MSP, the live stream edition. We're just having fun with these. These are not, really scripted or have, you know, pre-scheduled topics. Although this one, we did say we were going to talk about community because Juan and I are both big community guys. Couple of things to make note of first, just in case you didn't know, we're also a Facebook group, so facebook.com, All Things MSP. You can find us on LinkedIn as well as a company. If you're doing something separate other than your personal stuff, it's good to set up a company there. And then, of course, if you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, head on over there and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. We're actually getting really close to 1,000 subscribers. Not that I really keep count because, numbers don't really matter when you're doing this for fun, but it's kind of cool anyway, right? So tonight I have a guest that I've wanted to bring on. I don't know. I think I talked to him about this, back at ChannelCon last year. And my bad for not getting the live streams kicked off as often as I wanted to or as soon as I wanted to. But without further ado, let's make sure he's unmuted. He is. And let me go ahead and pull up the interview version of this screen. There we go. Welcome, Juan. Oh, somehow it remuted you.
That's okay. A lot of people want to mute me.
Yeah, but not me. Not me.
That's all good.
So how you been?
I've been fantastic. Super busy. Wonderfully blessed and busy this year. 2023 has started off with so much going on, so much energy, so many great things, just planning for 2023 and all the wonderful things this year. It's just really got me on a high this coming into this new year. So I'm pumped to be here, man. So staying in late, working late is not uncommon for all of us. So for those of you that are joining us today that are working late, happy to have you here joining us, and really look forward to all the wonderful things we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it is interesting that with all the talk of recession and inflation and all of the negativity around the economy, I think most of the people that I'm talking to in tech, especially around the MSP industry, it's actually pretty positive. Is that what you're seeing as well?
I'm hearing a lot of that. I mean, a lot of my friends, obviously, and many of you that are MSPs likely tuning in here this evening, you're probably working late because of all the new customers that are coming to the table. There's a lot of new opportunities out there. There's a lot of concern about what's going to be the future, but I don't think, and I think we learned this during the pandemic, we saw this, right? We saw our seat at the table get really solidified with our customers. We became really important to them. So tech, I don't know, is going to be the thing that people cut, right? That's the thing that everybody's leaning on. And I said this, one of my great friends, Mike Schmidtman, I said it at Channel Pro on stage once. I said that during the pandemic, that managed service providers were the sure footing and the foundation in the quicksand of the pandemic. We stabilized businesses. And so I don't think that that's going to be long lost or forgotten anytime soon. I think that a lot of companies realize that we are now a lifeblood to business continuity. And so I'm really excited about it, but I know that there's a lot of talk about what could happen, but from a managed services perspective, I haven't seen any major decreases. I mean, there are some customers that are being affected by it. Please don't get me wrong. But I think as far as us as an industry, I think we're pretty stable.
Yeah, I would agree. And I kind of relate this back to 2007, 2008, 2009, when we had slowdowns as well. And I started an MSP in 2007. You talk about bad timing.
Yeah.
But it worked out fine for me.
Yeah. Well, luckily, right? It's like,
yeah.
I know. I was down that road with you, man. It was a tough time.
It was, but it was fun. Because, again, small businesses really needed us. And small businesses were the ones that were propping up the economy, right?
100%.
And so let's use that kind of as the segue then to kind of talk about community, because community can be thought of in a bunch of different ways, but a lot of times it's individuals or smaller entities that get together for a greater purpose or a greater cause. And go ahead.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. Just like this water bottle, like I wasn't doing this, before the end of the year. I'm part of this, weight loss for charity thing, backed by a community of MSPs that we're all looking to get healthy for 2023 for charity, right? So, I mean, there's a number of different ways that community is derived from. So, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that because there is a number of different communities here in the MSP ecosystem.
Right. So I know you and I have been doing this for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but what is kind of your first experience with community in this industry?
I found it a long time ago, right? And I think I found it, by accident. I didn't really know it existed, and it was really something called CompTIA, and it was one of those places where it was the least. I didn't really think that there was anything there. I thought it was a certification testing company, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there was like this community of people that were getting together to like, talk about the test and like do group study and stuff like that. This was a long time ago. Um, if I have to say, it's probably 20 plus years ago. And, it's interesting. When I originally found that, I was like, man, that's really great. It was a kind of like a user group type thing back in those early days. And, now I think about it, a community has evolved so much past that now. Now there's so many more meaningful communities and so many different ways to, that community brings, people together that, that, like I said, but to your point, how did I get there? The first one I ever found was CompTIA. And to this day, I still am part of that. Like, I'm a big part of that. Like, you'll never get me out of that community.
Yeah, I think, well, both of us are, right? And in full disclosure,
Okay.
we're both involved with the North American EC for the CompTIA communities. Uh, we're both working hard on different projects and things there that we'll probably talk about maybe in future sessions as the ball gets rolling on 2023 and some of those things start to come to fruition, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and there's also the ad hoc communities. There's the communities that the events, some of the larger events, you know, promote and just bring people together. Like I remember my first experience with really an ad hoc community because it wasn't a formal community was when I went to my first GFI Max conference. I mean,
Wow. You want to talk about GFI going back. Wow. There you go, man. That's one.
yeah,
I
but
haven't heard.
that's
Wow.
I started meeting people like Ian Trump,
Yeah.
who I leveraged for a lot of security questions back in the day, back when none of us were very familiar with security because we didn't have to be, right. As long as we had AV on a machine, we were good.
It's about as good as it got back then, though.
Exactly, exactly.
There wasn't
So
a lot.
yeah, so
We,
there's a lot of examples of different places, but uh, CompTIA to me, because I had the certifications, right? From
yeah.
way like back when, what was it? Uh,
Careful. You're going to date yourself if you do it. You don't got to say the year. We don't got to spit that out. We may put ourselves like back in the Stone Age, man. Calm down.
well, it was a certain question that was about how to wire up the power supply. Remember when you actually had to wire up the switch for an AT power supply, and if you got it wrong,
Yeah.
at
You can.
minimum you tripped a breaker.
Yeah. Oh, I remember those days. Dip switches and all those different things. Yep, I do recall.
Worst case, you had flames going up the wall.
Oh, I have smoked a few motherboards in my life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you and me both. So anyway, let's talk about CompTIA for a second because there's a lot of things going on at CompTIA, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of things that you're involved with and I'm involved with. So what are some of the things that you've been involved with over the past year? Because I know it's been a really busy year for you.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? So, like, when I think about CompTIA, I know a lot of people look at it from a certification side, and there's so many things. And again, that's part of why I do what I do because it took a long time for me to figure out all the benefits of CompTIA. And that wasn't for any other reason than I just didn't have time to dive in. But I don't think they're at on the surface, if you will. So that's one of the things I'm hoping to try to help. improve is to help people understand what's available to them at a glance. And so one of those things is it's outside of being certifications. There's CCF, which for many of you that haven't been there, that's communities councils forum. And that's wonderful, man. I love going to CCF. I've always said that CompTIA has like my home events, like CompTIA, CCF, and ChannelCon were like my main events of the year. And I used to focus a lot of time on going to those, and I still do to this day. But some of the things that I think are really important are the community that's built at those events. I've made so many wonderful friends, and to this day, I still make wonderful friends. Me and you get to see each other often and collab and do things together. I mean, this type of thing, right? Where one day, I remember when I was just starting off and I didn't know anybody. That's how I got to know people, was just going to those types of things and being part of those types of things and getting involved and listening and learning and trying to figure out my way as an entrepreneur. So I think that, as far as some of the stuff that new initiatives for this year for CompTI, my challenge and my whole charter for 2023, and I've said this, number one is education. So for all of 2023, my primary objective and my goal for 2023 is education. Number two, and most near and dear to my heart, is community, is building more community. And I mean that across the entire MSP ecosystem, similar to what we're doing here, bridging the gap between communities to have conversations, to join us all together for a unified front. We need to learn together. We need to grow together. We need to band together. We need to be able to, really harness the power and intelligence of everybody and really fight this battle together. Matt Lee talks about this often, about raising the tide, and we're all in the same battle, right? We're all fighting the same fight. It's all us good against those bad, right? Red team, blue team. And from that, I think that as a community, if we can just focus more time on becoming aligned and really learning from each other, I think we grow faster. I think we learn faster. I think that we become stronger. And so that's really what I'm hoping for. And those are my personal initiatives for 2023 is really trying to bring everybody together. And you'll see me, I'm going to try. That's my, it's my detriment is that I actually care about this industry because I love it. And I love it because it represents so much of a part of who I am. I'm a builder by trade. I'm an engineer. I've been in this, just like everybody else. I started off getting my certifications, not knowing what I was doing at an AOL help desk many years ago. That's as far as I'm going to date myself. That's it. But, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to struggle through tech. And so I'm just trying to do the things that hopefully are meaningful, educate people along the ways, help them find their way in the dark, and hopefully bring meaningful things together to really help people feel more comfortable here and feel more accepted and wanted, and that we can be more vulnerable and transparent. So that's my 2023. If you ask me what I'm up to, what do you got going on, Eric? You've always been a champion of this. So, what's your initiatives for this year, man?
So I think I said it at the top of the program. Really, community is what 2023 is about in terms of me personally, as well as all things MSP. My involvement in the CompTIA communities this year has gone up, yet another notch, which is great. I have a ton of fun doing it. And with all things MSP, just like you, I'm trying to use this as an avenue to let people know what the resources are that are out there that can help them. Because you said it really well. Most of us are engineers or engineer types, right?
Yeah.
We don't network well. Well, until we've had a few drinks.
Yeah. Or unless we start trying to solve some sort of technical problem. That was always my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, how do we fix this server issue that we can't fix? Anyone know how to fix that? And then everybody would dive in.
And that's a game changer. When you find that group of people that when you run into a problem, you can ask those questions, that's a game changer for your business. And it's not only the technical ones, but that's how it happens first, usually, at least it was for me. And then you start connecting with the people and you start really coming out of your shell, because for a lot of us, we don't want to ask about business because we're kind of embarrassed about how we're running our business on the back end, especially when we're getting started as engineer types, right? But
Oh
when
my
you
God.
find those people that you
Yeah.
can be that genuine with and ask those questions to, I think that's really where the rubber meets the road and you start growing your business.
I was on the phone late last night, and I love my wife to death because she has such a tolerance for my phone to just ring continuously, and she sacrifices a lot of her time to help support, my aspirations to be that willing to help others. And I was on the phone with an MSP last night, and he was asking me a question. He goes, "Hey, so I'm like trying to figure out this tech utilization thing. Like, I know, what are your thoughts on this?" And I mean, for somebody to be that open and ask those types of questions, that they're not paying me, right? We're just friends. Like,
Mm-hmm.
any MSP that calls me has a question, I have a bad habit of answering, and then I have sit down and like, all right, like, hey, how are you doing it? Let's talk through this. Like, here's where I think you're missing it. Like, this is where I think you're off. Like, and make sure you account for this thing too. It's really important to be vulnerable and transparent. Like, I'm not the kind of person that, yeah, I've experienced some success in building a business, but I've experienced a lot of demise, right? To the point where I burned my entire life to the ground already. But that's the part that I'm willing to share, right? And I think that that's the moment where I don't think a lot of us do a lot of that, is being
Mm-hmm.
really true and authentic. Like, we like try to hide it, so like, oh, people think more about us. I don't really care, and that's where I think that as a community we have to clear up that transparency level and be more vulnerable, because when you are, it unlocks the purity and the opportunity for conversations to be had, and the bonds get formed way tighter. And I have friends now that I may not hear from for 6 months, but they know I'm going to answer that phone, and they know that I'm going to help them no matter what. And I'm going to give them all the good, bad, and ugly. Right. And I think that that's what community really, truly means, is when you have friends that you can reach out to. And that's what it lands up becoming. Right. You become really great friends. You and I, the same. Right. So
Yep.
I know that many people watching here I've talked to. So it's kind of funny to see everyone. How you doing, everybody that's out there?
Yeah. I mean, so it's, I don't know. It's to me, like I said before, that was the game changer, was when I finally had that group of two or three people that I could really talk to honestly about my business,
Yep.
because we don't want to talk to everybody about how the business is doing, because frequently it's not doing great. Although I would say
I'm
that,
not doing great. I don't know that anybody's just like surfing
right.
on cash flow, right?
I mean, there are some guys who are doing a really just bang up job of it, but
Sure.
for a lot of us, we didn't get into this to make money. We're engineer types. We got into it because we like solving these problems for
Yeah.
clients. Um, but I think, a lot of people might struggle with, well, where do I get started? And
Yeah.
it's with things like CCF.
Yep.
CCF to ChannelCon is great too. Like, I recommend going to both, absolutely, wholeheartedly. I actually just registered for CCF yesterday.
Yes.
Have have my hotel room. The only thing I haven't done is booked my flight. I'm actually coming in for my birthday. So,
When's your birthday?
well, internet, we don't want to get too, but um, suffice it to say, it happens during during CCF.
We should.
Um,
What is mine? That's why I'm asking. We may have to have this conversation offline. But
well,
yeah, yeah. I usually every year for CCF, because it falls around my birthday, I ask everyone to come as a birthday gift. If you want to give me something for CCF, join me. If you want to get me something for my birthday, join me at CCF. That's usually what I ask on
yep.
LinkedIn.
In fact, so fun fact, for my 50th birthday, um, Dave Sobel took me to Lou Malnati's to celebrate my 50th birthday at CCF
Oh, get out of
several
here.
moons ago.
Oh, this is good. Now you got me peaked. My interest is peaked on this, and we're gonna have to figure this out now. Now it's
Yeah, we
gonna
will.
bother.
Well, we have the post show to worry about that. Um, so for me, like, CCF is kind of a more intimate environment, and you can kind of get to know people a little bit better. ChannelCon, you still can, but it's a bigger event. There's a lot more people,
Yeah, there's a
um,
lot.
and a lot of times, you'll find your tribe at CCF, and then you'll rejoin them in ChannelCon.
100% agree. I 100% agree. And I think that, from that, it is definitely more intimate. It is definitely more communities and councils, right? So when you think about the overall tone of the events, that's one of the things that really stands out. So for those of you that are looking for that type of thing, join us at CCF. It'd be super fun. We got a lot of stuff going on this year that well, I can't say we, but I can say CompTIA does. I speak in the understood we.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, absolutely. And from that, I think ChannelCon has always been an interesting event for me too. I've always enjoyed that event because it is a bigger event. I always felt like that was the event of the year for me, like back when I was at Tech, because I was super into like certifications and geeking out with everybody, and I felt like those I could talk to people there because they were the same stature, like we had the same certifications, like I could find the same people and like find those niches of those that had A plus and Network plus and Security plus, and it was just good conversation. And it's like, it was a great place to benchmark, like you said, find your tribe. It was super fun, and it still is super fun. I don't know that I've ever missed one, to tell you the truth.
I haven't missed one since I started going in, but so to be fair, like, even though I was into the certs and everything when I had my business, I actually didn't get into volunteering and being at the events until I switched sides, until I switched to the vendor side.
Really?
Yep.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah. You know what? Well, let's put it this way. I didn't get into being part of a community until I was like had my own business and I was searching for a lot of answers because there wasn't a lot. I mean, you got to think about it. I mean, I hate to say it, but it was like the internet was just coming out. So it wasn't like there was a whole lot of places to go and chat. I mean, there was online user groups, but that wasn't the exact same thing. So yeah, I hate to say that though. Doesn't it sound weird to say you're around when the internet kind of started? I mean, I don't want to be there like when it was first created. I'm not saying that, but like, when it took hold, I should say.
So I'll put it in this perspective. It's back when DSL just came out
Okay.
and we were using, remember Netgear had a router that would connect to DSL
Yep.
and it would connect to
And
a modem so you could back up the DSL with a traditional phone line and a 56K modem.
we were flying back then. 14.4, man. And then like you get like maybe 500K.
We have a comment from Chris. He says that his whole IT life has almost always been community.
I like that, Chris. That brings me hope, man, because that tells me that we're doing the right thing. See, that's why it's so important. We can't carry the torch forever either, Eric. I mean, here's the thing that I think happens a lot, right? We lose the sanctity of wanting to build community, and we lose the opportunity to educate others, right? So, but here's the thing. I think we got to keep community going strong. And it's everybody that's
Yep.
going to join on this live stream, everybody that's in the managed services space. We can all learn something from everybody. Like,
Yep.
and that's how we used to learn back in the Stone Ages, right? Like, I mean, you didn't, I'm sure that, starting fire and by banging rocks together wasn't just something that everyone figured out on their own, right? That had to have been passed on year to year to year, and it got better and better. That's why I think we can move further faster through community, and that's why I want to try to bring everyone together, because I think it's going to be super awesome to get so many more thought leaders together to have conversations about things. How do we fix stuff? Like, let's work on stuff together. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. So I'm glad Chris is in here. We're gonna have to invite him to the party.
Yep.
Oh, it's Phillips.
Yeah.
Even funnier.
And I should have I should have known earlier because I know that's his YouTube channel.
Oh,
Um
that's
anyway.
we're still gonna have to
Um
invite Chris to the party.
yeah,
As a
yeah.
matter of fact, I want to see Chris as part of the party. He has to be part of the party now.
Well, he is part of
So
the party.
100%. He is the party sometimes.
That's true. That's true.
Now you guys are going to have to come to CCF to find out what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, and CCF, because speaking of like future leaders and stuff like that, we have the Spotlight Awards that are coming up. So if you are a CompTIA member,
Yeah.
I think you have. Well, I think you have till tomorrow. Um,
So I think, yeah, is it tomorrow or is it the
I think it's
13th?
tomorrow. At least that's the deadline that I was given. Maybe I was given a deadline like that because everybody knows I procrastinate, but um, could be. Uh, I
Yeah,
did. I
it's
did
tomorrow.
submit a future leader, though. I'm not going to
Good.
say who it was, but I did submit a future leader because that's true. I mean, you and I are in the position now when we can give back, right? And I talk about that in terms of I've gotten to the point where I can do all things MSP and I don't need to generate revenue with it because I don't want to. I want to use it just as a way to give back, outside of everything else. And I know you kind of feel that same way. You had that philosophy with the book.
100%. And here's the thing, right? So we read those posters on the wall, right? And one of them has always stuck with me. I remember walking into Continuum's office, and on it said, "Be the change you want to make." And I looked at that and I took a picture with it. And I remember posting it to social, and it really struck me because at that moment in time, I was actually, we had just, come off of a high of winning MSB Shark Tank. And I thought to myself, one of the main things I was trying to do there wasn't I was trying to win a competition. I was trying to share what I had built and offer it up to the whole community in a grand opportunity, right? Like in a meaningful way. And everyone always asks me, why are you doing that? And I'm like, because the more I share, the more it causes me to innovate. Right. So, like, for a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, I don't want to share my secret sauce with a bunch of people. Well, trust me, I promise you, you may learn something from that group that you may take away, and it may be a lot better than what you had when you walked in. So, there is a net win there. There's a net positive. And so, oh, look, Chris corrected. So for those of you that want to vote and submit somebody for a Spotlight Award through CompTIA, maybe we can share that link for those of you that are thinking about people that should win an award or be recognized in the industry or in a community that you exist in. Sounds like the deadline is Friday the 13th. I intentionally didn't do anything on that day. I was going to do a show that day, and I said, no, let's wait till the following. But I'm not superstitious, but and that's where I think community really plays a big part. And we have to get past that thought of, like, there's that imposter syndrome. Henry Tim says this the best. He wrote an article for Channel Pro. It was really, really awesome to read. How we all have this imposter syndrome built into us, right? And it's like you have to come out of your shell. Like, and that's where I think community helps you kind of crack that code. Is it allows you to be comfortable, right? And in order for you to come out of that shell, you have to feel comfortable in that ecosystem. So that's I can't say enough about it, man. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, that's been really a big piece of me. It took me a long time. As a matter of fact, you want to hear a fun fact?
Sure.
For the longest time, I never told my story about how I failed at my first MSP or my first technology company. I didn't want really anybody to know. And I did it at CCF. And for the first time ever, I told my story about how a lot of people knew I owned a company, but no one knew how I exited that company. I never told the story, and no one ever really asked, but I told it there. And the reason that I did it there is because I knew that it was going to help somebody. And it really hurt to tell, man, because it was a somber story about how I lost everything, right? But I did it because I was outside of myself and I felt comfortable in that community to share. Look, I'm going to share one of my most intimate moments, one of my most heartfelt, hard spoken moments, because I think I can help. And to your point, yeah, you're right. That's 100% why we wrote the MSP Owner's Handbook. It wasn't about the money. Like, the money goes back to help people buy certifications for those that apply. And so I know what it's like to struggle. But again, that picture I took was the one that was, be the change you want to see. And that to me has stuck with me this whole time. And I know it sounds coy, or we've probably all seen it a million times. And we don't think we could ever make that change happen. But I promise you, you can. And you can do it with community. When you get enough people together for an opportunity to change something, you can make a change. And so I want people to understand that. I think it's really meaningful, Eric. I mean, we've made a lot of changes in this industry because of communities coming together to do things. The councils, CompTIA's councils, like for people that are getting involved there, they're doing amazing things. The CompTIA communities, they're doing amazing things. There's a number of communities like, Evolve, that do amazing things.
Yep.
There's all kinds of communities in this space that, the Tech Tribe and others that do amazing things, because there's a like-minded group of people that are trying to make a difference and again, help each other. That's been super,
Yeah.
super awesome. So, I get off my soapbox there, but man, I get heated and I get really charged up whenever I think about the difference it's made in my life and what difference I can see over my participation. And I'm sure you can see it too, Eric,
Mm-hmm.
the changes, even if they're small, whether it helped somebody found some hope, whether they found some opportunity that was different from before, they learned something, like all those things matter. And that's what I think's in it when people say, well, what's in it for me? It's helping people,
Yeah.
and that's the best reward you can get.
Yeah, and there's just so many aspects of it, and you don't have to like fully immerse in it right away. You can just start by joining a group and listening. Right? We have the MSP committee, which is
Hmm.
not just a committee; it's the group of all MSP. If you're in CompTIA, you can join that call, and those are going to be really exciting this year. And even if you just start listening, you pick up one
Yeah.
thing, it works for you. You bring that back and you talk about your experience,
Yeah.
right? And then somebody else picks that up just because you shared your experience from listening and implementing one thing that somebody talked about.
Hmm.
And it's powerful because it can start that small and you don't have to commit to anything, right? But then it grows because you're
It does.
learning, you're growing, you're sharing more. Now you're somebody who is recognized as knowing a lot about this, and people start asking you, they start reaching out to you, and it's kind of weird actually sometimes to me when people start reaching out, because I had a very similar experience to yours. Like my first, it was break fix. We weren't doing managed services back then,
100%.
but it crashed and burned. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, common mistake. I most of my work was for one client, right?
Yeah.
That one client, they retired and sold the business, and the new owner moved it 3 states away. I mean, and I wasn't gonna move,
Yeah.
so it happens, right? And we learned from that, obviously, and when both went on to build other businesses that we're proud of, and all of that stuff that gave us a footstep into doing what we do now.
One of the things that I am, with the book, we are going to be doing some things in 2023 with our second book that we're releasing. I committed to writing series of six as give back books. And one of the things, our mantra for the book is live, learn, give. And, you live your life, you learn, and you give back. And so a lot of that is really what our initiative is with all the books and the way I live, right? So anyone that knows me knows they can call me for pretty much anything, right? And I'm going to give them a story that is probably relevant, that I have, that is real,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably not going to be one of the best ones. But that's the part about having scraped elbows and bruised knees. It's like, well, here's all the rocky roads you're going to go down if you do that. Because I can tell you, I've been down a number of them, and so that's it. And that's what community is meant for, right? It's like, you just group think and it's just sharing those ideas. And I don't know, super, super pumped about it. But I know we probably have other things we want to talk about, but
Well,
I'll
that
stop.
half hour I told you about,
Did we blow through it?
we've already blown through 35 minutes. Yeah.
Hey, well, there's still people here. So, I mean, we can probably keep going.
Yeah, of course. So what else, looking at 2023, maybe what are you seeing as things that are important for everybody to be thinking about for 2023?
I think this year, like I said, I'm gonna go back to my original 2023 statements. And I often do this, and I often have these talks when I speak on stage, and I say, look, how many of you know the appropriate way to get on the internet? Raise your hand. And it's often interesting, and I ask that question on purpose because there's not a right answer, and that's troublesome, right? Because we live in a world that is completely immersed online, but we don't really know how to get on it. And I think that as a community is something that we should take on as an initiative to build, those best practices or education opportunities. Because this year, I think, is the year of education. We have, in order for us to close the cybersecurity gap, we're going to have to educate our customers on the needs, importance, and the reasons. And I think that we ourselves, need an education as MSPs, as business owners, on the reasoning why and the outcomes that, you can achieve with this new level of opportunity with cybersecurity products and services, because this is a world we have to protect. This is our world we have to protect. And in order to do that, I have to teach people how to do that, right? And I think we have to be the ones that first learn, and then we need to take that education and go back. And that's where I think community is going to thrive this year, is that we're going to see a lot of those communities really expand for those areas that are really important to the modern business. And I know that you see this, and we keep seeing this. Cybersecurity is on its growth trajectory because we need it. And again, back to the question, whether or not you know how to get on the internet, we all need to know how to get on the internet now. It's not a joke anymore. We have to figure this out. And so it's really being interesting. You got a comment there?
Well, Chris says it really well. He says, be a good learner in 2023. Read new stuff, join new groups, dive in deeper.
Yep.
Absolutely true. I think the role of community in that is that things are changing so quickly that I think you can actually learn faster and newer things from community. Like, here's what I
100%.
learned today. I learned, and not to tout CompTIA again, but Wayne Selk posted on LinkedIn today about
Mm-hmm.
a new capability that I guess Microsoft has it, where by sampling 3 seconds, three
Yeah.
seconds of your voice,
Yep.
they can replace your voice
Yeah.
with just that and be able to do a deep fake of your voice with 3 seconds.
I don't know if anyone wants a deep fake of my voice, but I tell you what, that is pretty scary to think about.
Yeah. And Wayne put it really well in what he posted in terms of this is a real threat. Like, I don't know of a lot of good uses for that, right?
Yeah. I was also watching some gray hat stuff coming out of Wes over at he's got a whole community of empath cyber over there, and him and Jimmy Hatzel were doing some gray hat stuff today by using Chat GPT to create
Yep.
hack code, right? Hackable code, or code to hack companies, right? Or creating malicious outputs. So when you think about that, it's not that easy for us to protect, right? It's like we can't go to AI and be like, "Oh, AI, can you help us protect this environment?" So here's where I think this goes, right? I think we start using artificial intelligence for self-healing networks. So now we're going to be like the battle of AI, right? But again, to community, we can create this type of stuff in conversation, like together, right? We can come up with really great ideas. Me and you are just two people talking here tonight, but you put 50 smart people in a room and some things happen. Like oh, look at that. I didn't think of that idea before.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? What do you see as a big trend in 2023, Eric? Where are you at?
So I think it's going to be similar to other periods of time where we've seen large businesses scale back and small businesses have to pick up the slack, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're going to see a lot more growth in the small to medium sized business arena because you're going to see the contraction in
Yeah.
in the larger companies, and I think that's going to bring in an opportunity for co-managed IT?
Yeah.
Because I think one of the ways we always see large companies reduce expenses, right, is to pare down the
Right.
IT department. And so I think that's going to be an opportunity for MSPs to step in and
Yeah.
provide that co-managed opportunity, and just propping up small businesses and getting them more capable, right? In the pandemic, it was helping them work away from the office, work from home, work from anywhere, find out new ways to do business in that environment. I think it's going to be, the solutions are going to be different, right? There's going to
Mhm.
be some more automation. There different solutions, but solutions nonetheless that MSPs can bring to bear.
You know what I like about what you said? As we see this retraction from enterprise into the SMB, and SMB meets it takes, kind of fills that gap. What's interesting for me to watch, and I love seeing this, is that MSPs are starting to collaborate more together and match up skill sets. We saw that during the M&A gold rush here in the last couple of years through, mergers and acquisitions. But one of the big things that I see is a lot of this collaboration, and I see a lot of that at in community opportunities where these communities, these MSPs are all working together. Like, hey, can you take care of this customer? Hey, can you do this project for me? Like they're crowdsourcing their offering, which is really cool to watch inside of the community stuff. So I like where you're going with it. I think you're right on point with everything. But I did notice a trend inside of what you said, and I was like, have you also seen that a lot? Have you? Has that been an
Yeah,
observation on your?
a lot. There's a lot more, and this kind of goes back to community, right? Where because of the relationships that we're building in community, we're now feeling comfortable enough with our peers to have that formal collaboration and deliver services for each other. And I
Right.
think one of the really important places that this is going to be relevant over the next couple of years, I think we've seen a little bit of a struggle in people trying to transition from MSP to MSSP, right?
Right.
Because it's not for everybody. But I
No, it's not.
think the power is when you have the guys who have transitioned, and gals, don't want to leave them out, who have transitioned to MSSP, that are now offering their services to other MSPs. And I think those relationships are really starting to work well. I'm seeing some good relationships and collaborations in that area, that specific area.
Yeah. 100%. I see that too. And that's a different kind of community too, right? It's creating a new type of community. I got a whole session about MSP to MSSP coming up at an event in IOTA where I'm doing a masterclass live talking all about that. So I love that you said that because I see the same trend. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunities there, so we got to be really careful here. And again, my conversation, again, my contribution to community is word of caution, but it's also experience, right? So I can only tell you based on what I've been through, but got to be very careful there on that road. So
Yeah.
working together, learning as a community, coming together as a community to talk about those things, I think we can move further faster. And we're going to need each other coming into these next up years. I can promise you that. We will rely on each other a lot more if everything that looks like it's coming down the pipeline is going to even gets close to fruition. So lots of opportunity.
Yeah. And I mean, not to be, you know, doomsdayish, but the effect that AI has is not that it's so much more effective.
Right?
The problem with AI is that it can be replicated so quickly and it can
Yeah.
iterate so fast
Yeah.
that the velocity of change, right now we see virus and ransomware variants, are just happening very rapidly daily. When
Yeah.
AI gets involved, it's going to even speed that up faster. That's where I think the danger in AI is. I don't think AI is just naturally bad, but it speeds up the learning process faster than we as humans can adapt.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where we're gonna have, like I said, we're gonna have to band together as a community to stop it, right? And I spoke on this a long time ago. Like I remember it was one of my first things that I ever did with CompTIA when I was speaking, when I first started speaking, was the impacts of artificial intelligence on the human race. And I talked about that in the early days, in 2010, 2011, because I thought it was really important for us to understand what it was intention was, to kind of try to hopefully set our mindsets right. But you're right. There is this opportunity to be bad. And there's an opportunity in everything for, you know, um, malicious intent. And this is where I think we have to come together to understand we need to do to protect ourselves against that. You know, I think that that's a biggest thing. Like we're going to have to band together. We're going to have to educate on the right behaviors. We're going to have to be bringing those thought processes ahead because you're right. It's going to evolve super fast. In the Matrix, you see that part of the movie where they're drilling into Zion, and then all of a sudden they break through, and there's like a trickle, and then all of a sudden there's like this mass rush into
Hmm.
Zion, and they can't. They're overwhelmed by the attack, and the only hope is Neo. I hate to quote that movie because it's one of my favorites, and I hate to use it on a webinar, but and I hope I did it justice because it's a fantastic movie. But for those purists that are all about that, I might get flack. But I feel like that's the similar scenario that we're going to face here very shortly. Is that unless we band together and start fighting that good fight, it's going to overwhelm us, and we're going to be in a whole new world of opportunity that we weren't quite expecting. And to your point, that can happen that fast. So this webinar I know is intended to talk about community, but I don't think that any one conversation that we've had to this point was that important until this one right now, which is banding together to stop the opportunity that could become. So we need to be very cognizant of our next steps in the future of what we're going to be doing here.
Yep. And I think it was Matt Lee actually in kind of his first
Yeah.
um, live stream of the year, where he was talking about that is going to be one of the most important things that we do as an industry is
Yep.
band together and fight the good fight together.
Yep. I don't think we're all on the same page here. I think we all have to be saying that. Every single person either listening or hears this in the future, I think he was 100% right. And I'm just, obviously maybe mimicking what he said, but I do see it as well. So to that point, I agree.
And Chris agrees.
And here we are, right? It again, and that's where I think we, as a, I hate to say that to overuse the word, but as a community, we are a community, whether we admit it or not. Like as you call yourself an MSP, MSSP, TSP, technology solution provider, whatever you are, or vendor, we're all in this together. Right. And you see a lot of big companies like banding together that are doing really good things, that are creating those communities and like championing that forward with their products and services. We need to be doing the same thing. Whether it's coming from, this little bit of effort that we're doing now on spending our time at night having a conversation about how we get together and how we do these things. We need to be chipping away at that block every day, in every aspect of the world. So, I can't wait to see what we accomplish in 2023. I promise you, when we do a look back at 2023 here, I'm sure we'll have talk about how community grew and how many wonderful people. I can't wait to see what we accomplish this year, Eric.
Oh, and we will. I will definitely bring you back so that we can have the wrap up to this conversation at the end of the year, because I think that there's so much that's going to happen this year. This year is going to be a game changer again for
Yeah.
MSPs. And I think one of the crazy fun things about this industry, and maybe it's just my ADD, right? That it changes so quickly, and we have to, just we go from supporting things in a pandemic to supporting things during a recession, and
Yeah.
we're those guys who react and have to react so quickly because our, you know there's another thing, we were talking about the difference between large businesses and small businesses and how they react in these different times. Large businesses cannot react quickly enough to some of these things, and that's where small business comes in and picks up, you called it a gap, and that's where MSPs as technology solution providers help SMBs navigate those solutions to be that agile.
Oh, 100%. And I think that that's where, I heard a funny story the other day. Somebody, now I don't, want to predate myself again or us, any of us that are here listening. Don't think I'm trying to make fun of us that started off in a different time zone of life. But I heard someone say that they still were running an AS400. And I just stopped for a second and I said, "What did you just say?" They're like, "Yeah, this customer's running an AS400 and didn't want to migrate to the cloud." And I was like, "What version of AS400?" And so the fact that I knew to ask that question was really bad. But the other end of the stick was, for those of you that don't know, it's an older technology. To have it still operating in a major corporation was
Mhm.
pretty interesting. But to your point, that's what I'm talking about. Their tech debt is so high, and they've invested in such archaic technology and built empires around this technology that they are literally, it's just shooting fish in a barrel, right? So if you're
Yeah.
not using technology as a competitive advantage and you're not hardening yourself against these modern threats, that's why these SMBs can move so much more agile through the paces and climb to the top and create unicorn style companies, right? We saw that with SaaS based applications, right? So when you think about that, the world's ready for change. It's just so many of them can't change, right? And that's the challenge. And there's a lot of us that are going to be there to service those modern customers, but we got to be on that cutting edge. So we got to be getting that education to make sure that we know what we're doing, and we need to be educated to a point that we're proficient at it, which is through certification, which has always been a big thing for me. So, you know, I love the fact that the internet's here, because I remember a day where we had to actually search through books to find answers, and now you can use this thing called Google. But I would preface that there is still value in certifications to a point where you need to know what you're doing, right?
Mhm.
It's super easy to go find the easy button and find the answer real quick by searching for it. But it's much more meaningful when you understand the entire problem. And I think that we need to understand the entire problem, band together to solve it. And so that's my thought, man.
It's a great thought.
And we're rocking, man. We've almost clicked an hour off, Eric.
Yeah, I know. I know. And
So,
probably I should probably let you get back to, that wife who is so patient.
oh,
Um,
she's so kind. She's waiting in the other room, and I know she is. And she loves to hear me all night long. So trust me, that's her favorite thing to do. Not.
I actually picked Wednesday nights because my wife has something else, and it makes it much easier for me to be able to do these on Wednesday nights.
My wife is going to start finding something else to do if I keep streaming late into the evening. That's for sure.
Well, there are plenty of volunteer things to do out there.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Community things.
Yeah, that's what my wife has found to do. She's got all of these different things that she volunteers for. One of them is coaching volleyball, you know,
Oh no, that's really fun though.
and so it gives her
You know,
stuff to do when I'm doing this.
I was talking to my daughter about this the other night. She says, "Dad, I went roller skating, and she was so banged up. Me and my wife were on the phone with her. We were like, well, you got to do this or do that." And I remember just thinking about what you're saying and the fact that we're talking about community. That was kind of like a community back in the day. It was going to the roller skating rink on
Yeah,
Friday night, man, and like, just finding people that knew how to skate similar to you. And it was like, or not at all. Like I was in the kiddie ring when I first learned how, but I mean, this is the part, right, where you find like-minded people, and then I made a lot of friends there, right? So,
yeah,
and you know, you get better and better and better at things, and then you got them championing you on, cheering you on. I remember winning like a skating challenge. I mean, that's this weird thing. There's community everywhere, like you say, and Chris is right. There is community everywhere,
yep,
and I am excited that we get to bring community everywhere this year, Eric, together.
yep. It's going to be an exciting year for sure.
So yeah, I definitely need to go, or my wife is not going to let me participate in communities this year, though.
Yep. So again, yeah, and this rings true for a lot of us who are going to watch this, right? And I know for the two of us, Disney fans, Star Wars geeks, techies,
Mhm.
Trekkies, or Trekkers. They're actually trekkers, right?
Oh, careful.
I know.
We got a lot of people watching here. You don't want to get on their bad side.
But you, by the way, you are dating us with roller skating on Friday and every Friday night.
Hey, man, calm. No, I want to go roller skating right now is what I want. Now, whether or not my work is going to allow me to do that because I have a lot of content I got to create and I got a lot of things to put out, maybe not. But there's a part of me that wants to go.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up since it has been, I mean, we're 55 minutes into it now, into a half-hour live stream, right? So
See, and Chris says roller skating is back, so I'm on something, man. Like, let's go.
maybe that's what we need to do at CCF.
Oh, maybe that's what we should do at CCF. A whole bunch of techies and a roller skating ring jamming some old school tunes.
Yeah.
This sounds like fun.
Definitely
Maybe
have
we
to
do
play
it.
some Boston.
I'm all right with that.
Chris is
I am
in.
in. 100%. Let's go. We got it. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thanks everybody for sticking around with us. This was so much fun, Eric. We got to do it again.
Chris says it might be a liability issue. Yeah, you might have a point there. All right, Juan, thank you very much. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing everywhere that you do. Really do
Yeah.
appreciate it. Chris, thanks for joining us tonight. Everybody else, thanks for joining us tonight. Don't forget, check out the Facebook group, All Things MSP. Check out follow All Things MSP on LinkedIn. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, head over there as well. You can probably find links to it in, well, probably whatever group you found this live stream in, because that'll work. Anyway, thanks a lot. Have a great evening. Talk to you later.